Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be reading the Introduction to Psychology textbook. This textbook is the Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, written by the Department of Psychology. I do not own any of the rights. The copyright is owned by the trustees of Indiana University and the McNeil LLC. There are 11 chapters, and each chapter is broken down to answer different questions. I will be reading each chapter and dividing it up into those different sections. Today is going to be Chapter 1.1. First, the acknowledgments. The people who wrote the textbook were Leslie Ashburn, Amy Bracken, Kiko Campbell, Lisa Contino, Brandon Fritz, Nicholas Grame, Michelle Hansen, Deborah Harold, Shannon Krupa, Jennifer Leyden Lamb, Bethany Neal Belivu, Kevin L. Rand, and Tamika C.B. Zapolsky. So, Chapter 1, Introduction to Psychology, answers the question, what is this course about? It was written by Lisa Contino. 1.1 is Introduction to Psychology, what is psychology? 1.2, History and Themes, answers, how did scientific discipline of psychology develop, and what are the main themes that have emerged from the history of psychology? 1.3, Research methods, answers, how do psychologists study behavior, and the course design B110 is discussed in 1.4. It answers what other principles upon which the course and the book are based on. Today we're going to be reading 1.1, an Introduction to Psychology. So the vocabulary words for 1.1 are psychology, behavior, mental processes, and scientific. So, an introduction to psychology. What is psychology? You may know more about psychology than you think you do. Throughout your life, you've been engaging in and observing behavior. Perhaps you've tried to understand and solve a psychological problem. As you observe the behavior of another person or yourself, you might have asked the same questions that are routinely posed by psychologists. What am I actually seeing? What is it, and what could be causing it? Where do I look for the causes, within the person or outside the person? You might have been concerned about what could happen if the behavior continued, and my assumption is that you wanted to help in some way to improve the situation. Although you may not have been aware of it at the time, you were acting like a psychologist, as you made observations, gathered information, and developed your own ideas about why people think, feel, and act as they do. This book and the course are designed to introduce you to what psychologists study and how they studied it. Excuse me. The field of psychology is more than a collection of interesting topics. It is a way of thinking that is shared by behavioral scientists, whether they are conducting research on impulse control or treating a person with a substance use disorder. Whether teaching a course in Introduction to Psychology or consulting with the police department on how to minimize bias. Whether investigating quality of life in patients dying from cancer or exploring how quality early childhood programs affect later development. Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. In this course, you will study behavior and mental processes in scientific ways. Let's break that down. Behavior is an observable action emitted by an organism. Mental processes, though more difficult to observe directly, include thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. If our ways of studying something are scientific, they are based on the systematic observation, and their goals are to describe, explain, predict, and change. You will come to know the content of the field of psychology through its systematic scientific ways of thinking about behavior. Introductory psychology is just that, a first exposure to an entire discipline. While it will be necessary for you to learn a lot of new vocabulary, this is not an end in and of itself. As you become more familiar with the many concepts in psychology, you will notice that the way you think about behavior and mental processes is changing and becoming more like that of a behavioral scientist, which is What psychology is all about. The goals of this course are to familiarize you with the content and the logic of the discipline of psychology, to spark your interest and prepare you to apply your knowledge to your own life and the lives of others. Psychology is a discipline that is grounded in science. It is a research endeavor as well as an applied profession. Some psychological scientists are interested in conducting research that advances our understanding of behavior, including what is happening, how and why it is happening, and what to do about it. Other psychological scientists are interested in applying what we know to change behavior, including interventions that can treat and even prevent a wide variety of human problems. It might surprise you to know that psychology includes many different areas of research and practice. Each chapter in this course exposes you to a different core content area of psychology. And each of these areas generates its own body of research. As you take a look at the chapter titles below, you will get a sense of the breadth of psychology, and you will know what you will be studying in the next 10 chapters of this course. Notice that each chapter has its own essential question. Just imagine when you complete this course, you will be able to answer all of them. So, the essential questions in the chapters. Chapter 1, Introduction to Psychology. What is this course about? Chapter 2, Lifespan Development. How do we develop throughout our lives? Chapter 3, Behavioral Neuroscience. How does my brain work? Chapter 4, Sensation and Perception. How do we take in the world around us? Chapter 5, Learning. How do we learn? Chapter 6, Memory and Cognition. How do we remember, think, and communicate? Chapter 7, Motivation and Emotion. What moves our behavior? Chapter 8, Personality. What is my personality and where does it come from? Chapter 9, Stress and Health. How does my stress affect my life? Chapter 10, Psychological Disorders and Treatment. How do we know when people have a psychological problem, and how can we help? Chapter 11, your final chapter in this course and textbook, answers the question, how do people view and affect one another? So that is the end of chapter 1.1. Thank you, and that is the end of this particular video. Have a good rest of your day, and I hope you do well in this course.